Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations and your assignment today. And today's video, we're going to be looking at how to understand your ascendant. And I'm pretty excited about this video for many reasons. One of them mainly because of, I created a video a while ago where it talked about understanding your ascendant, what it means, and it seemed to have got a lot of traction. A lot of people were interested in it. A lot of people had deep understanding and resonance with it. And I created it quite a while ago, so I feel like this is a nice opportunity to establish an update and to give you some more depth in terms of why it is that when I look at the ascendant, it's different to the sort of way that you would generally read how the ascendant is described in astrology on the internet. So the first things first is just going to put myself over there. Hello. What is the essence of the ascendant, and why is it such a thing that we seem to learn about straight away when we come into astrology? So a lot of the time, especially in my own personal experience, when we've come into astrology for the first time, we see that we have a sun sign, a moon sign, and ascendant. These are like the big three, right? And we learn about these energies because they reflect a sense of self-understanding. And so we're in this process of discovering ourselves. And it's beautiful because we get to learn about our ways of being, and we get to learn about the things that sort of differentiate us from other people. And the deeper you go into this process, you learn more about what your soul's journey is, right? So this video kind of aims to meet all of these criterias, where if this is the first time that you're learning about your ascendant, I encourage you to see it this way. If it's something that you've been learning astrology for a while and you're wanting to get into the nitty-gritty of what the purpose of the ascendant is, then this is also a great opportunity to really understand it properly and go and experience it for yourself. So my first little thing is, why this video? And I think this is really important in how to understand your ascendant. Again, there's a lot of information out there that talks about the ascendant as your personality or your ego. And this, I think, is a very dangerous thing to understand. There's more depth and more clarity that needs to have or be said about this. And so, again, I feel the importance behind really digesting the relationship that the ascendant has in your astrology chart to your actual life experience. And again, why is that the case? It's because I think a lot of the time when we're reading on the internet and we're learning about the ascendant, we're picking up sort of general character traits that are associated with the star signs, right, or the constellations. And that's all good in the sense of just discovering yourself, which is very much what the ascendant is actually about. But there isn't any more depth that goes into the explanation of how it works in an astronomical sense. What is the actual physical representation of what the ascendant is in your physical world and how that plays out? So we have kind of a resonance of experiences that you have in your life that can be associated with the description of Aquarius, right? So you've got an Aquarius rising and you read, oh, it's detached. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, fair enough. I am a little bit detached in that sense, but it's not the way that people see you. And it's not the way that it's described in the sense that this is your ego. It's not that. It's that you resonate with it, but that's not how other people see you. And that's another thing that has inspired me to do not only the previous video, but this one as well. That we need to kind of recategorize things here. We need to deepen our sense of understanding of what it is, so that when you go out and learn about your rising sign, as an example, you're actually feeling it. You're actually getting an orientation of your sense of self in the moment and how that relates to other people and in their process. Okay, so let's click to the next slide. And this is the reason why this takes place, right? So let's do something straight away, right? You can see a chart on the screen at the moment. And I put an arrow with the ascendant, right? The AC will be marked in your astrology chart. And you'll see that there is the first house of the astrology chart as well, indicated by that over there. And there's the ascendant and there's the arrow. So this person has a Cancer rising, right, or Cancer ascendant, okay? So here's where some of the issues come up for me in terms of the need to clarify and the need to restructure. Your rising sign, also known as your ascendant, represents the way others see you. Not true. I think that maybe later on in life, around the age of 40 or 50, you could have people recognize quality traits in yourself, but it's not the way that people see you, okay? Your general impressions on people, also not true, and your spontaneous reactions. Now, there's where I could actually sense and feel that this could be true, right? And that's where, if we had to break it down in a very sort of logical way, we could say, okay, that's how other people see you, through your spontaneous actions. And that's actually what the ascendant is. It's the momentary action that you have that's deeply spontaneous, that doesn't have a thinking process associated with it. It's deeply instinctual and spontaneous. First house, right? So the general impressions on people, fair enough, you can have general impressions on people through your spontaneous actions, but it's not there for other people to see you. That's not what it is. And it reflects the zodiacal sign that was ascending on the eastern horizon the moment you were born. All true. That's right. It reflects the zodiacal sign that was ascending, so moving upwards, on the eastern horizon at the moment you were born. So that's what the rising sign is, so the ascendant. It's the sign that was on the astrology chart, right? So Cancer archetype, that was ascending. Now, this is interesting to learn. These signs over here, as you can see, I've got Leo, Virgo, Libra. They're all moving upwards like that, okay? So your rising sign is ascending on the horizon. So rising sign, and it's the ascendant, and it's rising there. Does that make sense? So it's ascending. That's what this is. So, okay, we've got a sense of what that could represent, but why the video? Again, coming back to the core of it, it's the way that others see you. Not true. It's actually the descendant. It's actually the sign that's sitting on the 7th house cusp that will represent more about how you actually reflect yourself. And so let me get into this, right? Let me break this down for us. Okay. So the physical world observation. And I think that this is really, really important in terms of understanding the spiritual essence of what your rising sign is trying to represent or mean. So here we have the physical world, and you can see that the sun is rising over the horizon. Horizon, right, being that area over there, and the sun is rising. Okay, this is a physical observation of the world. And the purpose of understanding this physical observation is that when you understand your life and your astrology chart as your earth, okay, so you are the earth, and the sun is rising over your eastern side, okay? What it's well, the sign that's rising on your eastern side, what it's representing is a new instinctual experience that has not been discovered before. So it's deeply instinctual. You don't know this part of yourself. It's here to be integrated into your life as part of a deeper experience of your soul. So the quality of the rising sign is deeply, deeply influential in how you understand what the deeper purpose of your soul story is about. And because it's not something that you can influence by conditioning, it gives you the most purest essence of what it is that you're here to discover about yourself, or a large aspect of what you're here to discover about yourself. So the physical world observation, in my view, is the way that we can emotionally connect with the outer world and how it's reflecting our inner self and what it is that is inwardly within us, and the experience that the rising sun reflects, which again is, do you know what the day is going to be like? No, because it's the morning. How many of you have woken up in the day and gone, right, like this, yes, I know what the day is like. I know exactly how I felt about every single moment that I've experienced. We don't. We feel a sense of grogginess. We feel a sense of like, we're getting up, there's anticipation, there's a sense of discovery, there's a sense of newness, there's a sense of going to explore. Right? These are incredibly important emotional experiences and feelings that are attached to something that is just about to begin, or that is emerging. I would say the word emerging is essential. So when you're contemplating your rising sign, the things that you have to know is, what is it that this area of my chart is revealing to me about how I meet every moment in a new, completely new way? How do I meet every moment with a sense of discovery, with a sense of, I'm here to just explore this, or not just to explore it, but to explore something. And how does that then play out in my sense of what my mission is? So the physical world observation is reflecting to us an awakening experience. So the rising sign is here to be awoken in you. And it's not something that's discovered and understood. It's something that is busy being discovered about yourself. Okay. So I hope that that's clear in terms of understanding this. So what emerges from the unconscious holds the potential to awaken us. What emerges from the unconscious holds the potential to awaken us. So when you're understanding your rising sign and you're connecting to it, the questions you're asking yourself is, what is there that has been existing in the nighttime or the darkness or the unexplored essence of myself? And how is that sign pointing to what I'm here to discover or shine a light on, that eventually over my life I will become deeply understanding of, right? Or that I will witness and see and awaken to. What am I awakening to? Something interesting, and this all emerges from Carl Jung's work, is when we understand, we say, I see. So it's like we can experience something instinctually and we act in a way that we're discovering, we're uncertain about something, we're exploring it. And generally towards the end of the day, we have a sense of, oh, okay, yeah, 12 o'clock when I had that meeting, for instance, or at 1 o'clock and I had a conversation with my friend, and maybe we were in a bad space at the time, and so, we said some things that were maybe not comfortable together, or I was having this conversation, I got triggered, or that moment happened throughout the day. By the end of the day, we are digesting that experience. We are reflecting on the nature of what it was that we experienced, and the illumination of that experience, all right, leads us to saying, okay, I see. And it doesn't necessarily have to happen the day. It can happen 3 weeks. It can happen a month. It doesn't matter. But whatever it is that is awakening in us has a strong connection to the nature of our ascendant. And so the ascendant is reflecting how we meet these new moments in instinctual ways that reveal to us something deeper going on. So what is emerging from the unconscious holds the potential to awaken us. What is emerging from the bottom half of your chart, as an example, is there to awaken us, and it's part of our story. Okay? So a huge part of understanding the ascendant is the realization of polarities, okay? The yin and yang, the binary feature that exists within our consciousness. So at least on this material plane. And so how does this then fit into understanding and conceptualizing and making connection to your ascendant? Well, all of us have a rising sign. All of us have a sign that's on the descendant, so the opposite. So I'll use my chart as an example. I have an Aquarius rising. So on my descendant, which is the 7th house cusp, the sign in the 7th house, this is Leo, okay? Let's take the charts as an example. If we flip back through quickly to the charts that we were showing, this person has a rising sign of Cancer, but the polarity of that, where's my marker, is Capricorn. The descendant, see, 180 degree on opposition. It's going to be in opposition. The same here, like polarities. We're talking about polarities here and the essence of understanding polarities, that where you have points like there is a point of Pisces. Well, then the opposite side of it is Virgo. And the thing that you have to understand about this is that, let's just go back to our polarities over here, is that they're working together. They're working in unison. So if you have, like in my case as an example, an Aquarius rising, then the polarity to the Aquarius rising is the Leo, and that's on the descendant. And what people understand and see about myself, others will see the Leo qualities or traits. So most of you that are watching me right now perceive me as the person that's on YouTube. It's self-actualizing. I'm here, I'm on my little soapbox, as it were, talking about astrology, feeling a sense of importance because I have something to say that is different to what the current goes, by saying, no, the ascendant and how we understand it is wrong. These are very much Leo qualities, right? And a lot of you that are watching this will initially get the impression of me of self-actualization and recognition and, standing here. But that's not what actually the soul story is about. That's not what I'm here to discover about myself in this sense. And I'll explain why we will always reflect the Leo quality, or in my case, the Leo quality, outwardly to people, and that's the first impressions at a deeper level as well. But the thing that I'm actually here to discover in terms of my ascendant, it's actually speaking to my placement of my Uranus in the chart. Okay. And again, I'll talk about that in terms of why that's the case, why you're looking at Uranus instead of the 7th house. But polarities are always talking about the dynamic of interchanging archetypes. Okay. Interchanging archetypes. So yes, in this sense, I have an Aquarius rising, and in each moment I present a Leo quality. But the reason why that quality of Leo is being represented, and this happens for all of you, every single one of you will represent the polarity of whatever sign is on your ascendant. So if you have a Gemini rising, you're discovering something about the Gemini quality, but to others, you will appear very Sagittarius, like, oh, this person has a lot of information. They know things, right? And because Gemini and Sagittarius are always working together, and Leo and Aquarius are always working together, the polarity of detachment is like standing out and saying, hey, I exist, look at me, as an example. Okay? It's the polarity. So polarities are very crucial to understand when looking at your birth charts. And in this particular case, understanding the ascendant, it's the other sign that is opposing your rising is always going to reflect the quality of the first impressions that people are going to see. They're going to see that quality more. You have a Cancer rising, the likelihood of people looking at you and saying, well, you've got very organized, and you could have calm and collected, and you like to keep structures in place and stuff, and your Capricornness is there. But if you had to really get asked a personal question, notice the emphasis on the word personal, i.e. digging deeper into your own personal world, internal world, you would actually say to the person, yeah, that's true, that's what I give off. But honestly, I'm actually just trying to develop a boundary around my internal deep sense of emotions. And that's the rising sign. It's because the polarities are existing there, and we're always plotting out whatever the polarity is. And it's very complex and deep, and I'm going to show you here. So what you're looking at right now is called the Natural Zodiac. And the Natural Zodiac is the functioning structure of how our psychological nature is formed. Okay, there are 12 signs, and it's not to be mistaken with the actual constellations. And this is where Vedic astrology and sidereal astrology and tropical astrology clash heads, because it's not the same thing. The constellation Aries and the sign of Aries are in different locations because it's not 30 degrees as an example. That's where the mismatch comes in. So the location of the planets themselves in the sky itself and how they relate to the 12 archetypal structures or themes that make up a cycle are separated. And one is earthly bound, and the other one is a terrestrial or extraterrestrial, right? Terrestrial being Earth. So this is the psychological makeup of yourself. So everything in life initiates itself with Aries. It doesn't matter if it's sidereal or not. It doesn't matter if it's non-astrology based or not. This is why I love to teach the Natural Zodiac, because everything in life has a beginning. Something initiates something. And everything that is initiated and everything that is developed, okay, in every moment doesn't know where it's going necessarily. It's meeting it in every moment. So the rising sign is the consistent developing self, but not the self. Over time, it can be a formation of the self, but initially, the sense of what is being discovered in each moment is not there. We're understanding it. It's awakening into our subconscious, into our conscious mind. And so how does this work? Well, what happens is that when we discover ourselves, when we actualize or move into a direction, so we discover something new about ourselves through an impulsive action, or we said something, what comes to the surface is an emotion. That's the Cancer archetype. It's an emotional connection to what it was or what it is that we are having in the moment. So the Aries energy, or the self, goes impulsive action. Oh, I just acted this way. And then what rises to the surface, Cancer archetype, comes to the surface, and we identify with that. Oh, right. I'm noticing in this environment over here that as I meet people, I look around and I'm like, who's the people that are self-actualizing, communicating, right? And so I'll move into each moment and I'll say, oh, those people are talking about something I like. And I'll move to those people in a group setting, right? New moment, new self-discovery moment. And when I start to communicate with those people, it will seem as if I'm like self-actualizing, Leo on my ascendant, on my descendant. But what I'm actually doing with my Aquarius is actually seeking the groups of people that I can align with, that I can feel comfortable integrating into. That's what that's teaching me. So the moment I enter a new experience, I'm not looking to detach and be aloof and stuff like that. I'm going, okay, who can I talk to? Right? Because the moment I get to somebody that I can talk to, I can feel the tribe. I can feel which are the people that are speaking my voice. This is an Aquarius quality. Which groups do I associate with? And we all do this in some way. So the developing self arises through an instinctual reaction. And then what occurs is through the other, we learn about ourselves. So as we act in a new direction, an emotion that comes through an emotional need for security, we'll make a connection with something, whatever it is, and through the connection to whatever it is that we've bonded with, we'll have a reflection coming back to us. So in this case, I'll meet somebody that talks about astrology as an example. The likelihood of me actually trying to get into a group who speak about astrology than, say, people that are talking about how to knit, as an example, is higher. So my Aquarius is seeking to find emotional security in bonding with others that reflect the same thing I like, versus looking in the environment saying, that's not what I'm interested in, so I'm not going to emotionally bond with that. So the ascendant is consistently showing you what you are wanting to secure in your sense of self in the moment, because the moment is inherently insecure. And we do that through bonding with other people that reflect what it is that we are secure about. And so the Capricorn archetype forms the boundary. It forms the definition. It says, I'm in this conversation with these astrologers, and so I'm defining myself as this in that way. And it's not an actual definition of I am. It's more along the lines of the boundary in which the conversation and the consciousness is interacting with is around that. So what initiates itself at the rising leads to a progressive understanding of what it is that makes you feel safe. And so other people can perceive me as somebody that's chatty and everything, but really I'm actually looking for security in the groups that I can feel that I can express in, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a healthy thing, right? It means that sometimes maybe I should actually jump into the group where people are not talking about the things I'm talking about, because in that moment, if let's say, for instance, I went into the group and they were talking about knitting, for instance, and I had zero interest in it, I couldn't self-actualize. I couldn't be expressive because there would be nothing for me to talk about, right? So I would be detached. I would be aloof. I would be disconnected from it. And in that sense, that's where the first impression somebody could perceive you on your rising sign would be true. But the likelihood of us doing that is very It's not there. I mean, there are a few exceptions to the rule, and that's when we actually are feeling brave in the moment to meet something that it is that we are not afraid of. And that's why the rising sign is always about something that we are trying to secure in each moment because of an insecurity, because of an uncertainty, because of a lack of self that is in that moment. And it comes through to the inconjunct between Aries and Scorpio. Scorpio being the place that we merged with that feels empowered. We're like, oh, yes, I'm bonded here. I can talk astrology. But the moment I get into a conversation where somebody's trying to teach me the intricate jargon and details about knitting, I'm not going to feel empowered. I might have a sense of self-discovery in the moment by going, you know what, really, I actually kind of like this. It's interesting, and I could propose questions that could lead me to understand. But ultimately, the natural function is to not go into those things. And so people perceive more as the seventh house than the first house because of this insecurity. And this goes for all of them. So if you have a rising sign that's Aries, the likelihood of you being perceived as somebody that's impulsive and initiating things in each moment is unlikely, because you'll probably be showing up in context or being perceived as people as somebody that wants to interact with people and talk and, you know, have a conversation. But really, deep down inside, there's a necessity for aloneness. There's a necessity for not actually just talking to anybody for that matter and meeting the needs of other people. It's about self-assertion into a completely new way. Your Taurus rising, let's take that as an example, right? People are going to perceive you more as Scorpio. Why? Because the polarity of Scorpio says, well, in this moment, I feel that, or let's take this, let's restructure it. If your rising sign's Taurus, what you're actually discovering about yourself is how you meet your own personal needs. Okay, but how people can perceive you through meeting people, through interacting with people based on the insecurity is, well, you could be perceived as very confrontational, like you're very inquisitive, like, oh, you're probing, as it were. And what you're really actually probing is whether this experience for me is able to connect with the values and the resources and the understanding of my own interpersonal relationship to myself. Is this the people I want to bond with, as an example? And you can flip that around. You can take somebody that has got a Scorpio rising and has a Taurus ascendant, right, descendant. Now, in this particular instance, people can immediately feel you as intense. But again, you're doing the same thing here. It's like you're actually questioning the necessity of other people's values and if they can be trusted or not, because really what you're actually seeking inside of yourself is, can you trust these people? And so people can perceive you as being very sort of calm about something or very Taurus about it, you know, very certain and strong and safe about it. But actually inside of yourself, you're going, yeah, I really need to actually penetrate to the core of it because I don't know if I can trust you. Let's take a Leo rising as an example. The Leo rising part of you wants to initiate to recognition, right? But what you perceive, what you see out, what other people see you as, is the one that's going, oh, just kind of like be a bit detached. Is people going to see me? Will I be seen? Can I be recognized? But what you're actually discovering about yourself is the location of the sun in your chart. You're here to self-actualize. You're here to bring up to the surface. You're actually here to do the very thing that people perceive me to be with my seventh house is, oh, you know, standing over there and saying, hey, I like this. You're supposed to meet each moment and say, okay, well, hey, I don't know anything about this over here, but I'm super curious and this is who I am. And people interact with you and you can feel seen in that sense, right? You're here to be seen, as an example. And there was something that I missed out in the conversation that I wanted to add to this, which was that you're discovering yourself in each moment. You're discovering who you are, and through the connection of being spontaneous in your rising sign, because that's what you are. You're just going to be spontaneous. You're going to act instinctually in this way. Each moment will lead you to understand more about your own psychological nature. And that's actually held in the location of the planet in your birth chart. So in my case, my planet that is ruling my ascendant is Uranus. And what's weird about it is that my Uranus and my Mars square each other. So Uranus, which is a planet that is ruling Aquarius, and Mars, which is the planet that influences the first house, there's a repeating theme. So what is that actually telling me in terms of what I'm here to awaken from my subconscious? Well, it's how do I fit into groups that have the same vision as me? And so that's the purpose of the rising sign. It's in each moment, I'll kind of scan the environment and see who are validating themselves. Oh, that person seems to be talking about astrology. Okay, in the moment I gravitate towards that. And then they're talking about astrology and I just pop up going, yeah, I do videos on YouTube and I try to teach astrology and help people. And immediately people are like, wow, yeah, you're chatty. But actually, the thing that initiated me into that place is I need to find the group I can feel comfortable with in terms of their vision, their truth, right? Because of the location of my Uranus in the chart. And that goes the same for all of you. If you have a Venus, a rising sign that's Taurus, you look for your Venus in your chart and you understand the story that's associated with it. That's what's coming to the surface. There's something there, a part of your soul journey. The same with with your Leo rising sign. You look to the location of your sun. If you've got a Cancer rising, look to the location of your moon. Virgo rising, look to the location of Mercury. If it's Scorpio, look to Pluto. If it's Sagittarius, look to Jupiter. If it's Capricorn, look to Saturn. You're developing the Saturn archetype in your chart. Whatever rising sign you have, look at the planet because it's telling you what you're here to discover about yourself in instinctual moments as part of a bigger process. Does that make sense? Okay. So I hope that that kind of like really, really deepens your sense of understanding that the rising sign is here to help you understand who you are, not that this is who you are, and that the thing that really gets the people impressions is your descendant. People see more of that. And in each moment, we are learning about ourselves based on the location of the planet in the chart. So again, like I said, if you've got a Capricorn rising, look to Saturn. What are the aspects and what is the house that's being played over there? That will tell you what's really underneath the surface that wants to come to the surface, so you can see, yeah, I did actually have a lack of structure in my life because the parents weren't available. And then you look and you're like, oh, I have Capricorn rising and Saturn's in the 8th house in Pisces, right? The loss of the parent or loss of parents, or the feeling of abandonment of authority, and then in Pisces being I had no choice. And so there you begin to sense that, oh, in each moment, the likelihood of me feeling comfortable asserting myself is not as great as, for instance, somebody next to me, because I'm consistently aware of that subconscious memory of the authority or the boundary maker being absent in my life. And in that moment, you can see the value in this. You can see the depth in this because it's not just random quality traits, but actually understanding your own psychological nature and how that is embedded within your process. Okay, so I'm going to end there because there's a lot to process in this video, and I encourage every one of you to spend some time reflecting on this, reflecting on the context that I'm sharing here. You know, write questions in the comments below if you want me to interact with you. I'll help you with that, not a problem at all. If you want me to actually do a reading for you in that sense, you know where to contact me. My website's on the description and the comments below. I want you guys to interact with this video, okay? I want you to learn from this process. That's what I'm wanting to do here. I wanted to get us to really, really see the potential in astrology, i.e. the potential in us, by awakening the things that we have become placid to in this sense, okay? So I have one more thing to do, part of this video, and it's about reflection, and I want to talk about Patreon. And so there are a couple of things that I want to share with you guys, right? The rising sign will always teach us about reflection. It's always about reflection. So it's the event that occurred that then through the event that occurred gives us the sense of what it was that we were experiencing. So when we're reflecting on the experience, we deepen our sense of understanding about what the actual rising sign is doing, how to understand it. So some questions that I had got off the internet were based on reflection is, reflect on your experience. What did I experience during the event? What happened inside of me during the experience or the event? Like, these are healthy questions to ask yourself. And reflecting on what you're learning. What does this experience say to me? Okay? And what can I learn from this? Or what can I understand from this? And if you can begin to practically apply these ways of seeing your process, then this developing self or the sense of self that you're going to understand is going to broaden like 100-fold, because not only are you sitting in a situation where you're trying to figure out astrology through the internet, you're actually using your own psychological and emotional makeup to reveal that answer to you, and so you're becoming your own authority as well. And that's another thing that's super important about the rising sign, is you're learning about your own sense of self. And so how do you become sovereign? You learn about yourself. You learn about your own earth in that sense. Okay, so I'm going to talk to, let me just do this over here. Part of the Patreon subscription and membership that I offer, and I'd like to say thank you to all of the patrons that have contributed to the success of Raising Vibrations in terms of sustaining it. To every one of you, this video is made possible because of you. So thank you so much for the opportunity to have this done. And for those of you that are new to my work or new to this video, and you want to learn more about what I offer extendedly as well, Patreon link is in the description. You can go and read about all the different ways that I sort of kind of contribute to people's ability to understand themselves better. So as part of the Patreon sort of contribution back to you guys, there are a bunch of questions that I asked my patrons to ask me. And so I'm going to respond to them, and hopefully this maybe gives you something to understand as well about how the actual rising sign works. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so I have got some Patreon questions here, and I think that they're pretty fun to do. So Cameron asks, do you feel as though the ascendant is something that most develop later in life, and do the current conditioning in this develop later in life due to the current conditioning in this space-time? Yes, absolutely. I think that as you develop your sense of self later, as you grow, and through multiple experiences of understanding this and reflecting, you do actually understand your ascendant, because that's what it is. It's discovering yourself in every moment. Absolutely. And Cameron asks again, do you feel when a soul programs one to have multiple planets on the ascendant, that the process of those planets will be in continual and rapid mutation? Yes, absolutely, 100%. As if the soul desires for the process of that planet to have not a stopping point in this lifetime, but to birth a new direction. Yes, absolutely. If you've got planets on your ascendant, if you've got planets on your rising sign, see those as exactly that. Like they're being here to go, hey, we want to know ourselves. So if you've got planets in your first house, know that this is going to be a huge part of your awakening experience. Absolutely. So Monica writes, she's saying, if the ascendant is the 0 pointer of instinctual energy available to you, correct, and the ruler of it is Uranus, like sitting in her 7th, how, or rather, when does the soul become aware of the potential to individuate in this lifetime? So I would say that, again, coming back to Cameron's question about how things operate over time, consistent experiences in your moment-to-moment reality will ignite your Uranus. So you are here to individuate yourself. You're here to break away from constraints. And so the story in the soul will most likely say that there are a lot of constraints in your life that will need to be broken and liberated from. So like in my case, Uranus as the planet that's influencing my ascendant. And so I'm here to decondition, break away, and remold the structure of my truth and my vision and my belief system. And part of that process of interacting with others and learning about myself through others is finding the people that think differently. And so in that sense, part of this YouTube channel will meet people that will go like, oh, that's not true. This and it is about this. And I'm like, okay, fine, go ahead, believe what you need to believe. But there's a vision here that I see that actually contradicts that and says it's the opposite. So there will be a lot of people that will get that and say, yeah, that's right. And so they resonate with my fractal. That's the same thing here. It's all about resonating with the right thing as an Aquarius rising. So my query is about awareness, as it is the instinct and a timely thing acquired through time and observation of these qualities of that first house. Yes, exactly. So again, it's all about awareness, coming into awareness. Okay. Can a person with Neptune in the first house be aware of this influence? Most likely not. Only through a progressive period of time will you really actually see Neptune in the first. It's probably one of the most difficult placements to have a planet, because the nature of boundaries and how you interact with reality is so blurry at times that your sense of self can be very illusionary and very escapism. And not escapism in the sense of negative, but more in the sense that the moment can escape you. So you can feel very high and then you can feel very low, because Neptune does that order element. So I would definitely say that becoming aware of your Neptune in your life is a little bit more difficult than, say, for instance, a Saturn quality. Okay, Floyd writes, for me, Simon, it's about balance. It's how to balance the rising when it's, hold on, let me just move that away. Balance the rising when it's square to your sun, Mercury and Moon and Mercury. I feel like I'm consistently performing my rising sign when in public, but it's antithetical to how I feel most times. Rising Leo, Moon, Sun. Exactly, exactly. Again, here's another example. Floyd's talking about how his rising sign squares. He's got a Leo rising, and his Sun, Moon, and Mercury all in and sitting right in the house of public, so 10th house. And so a lot of the time you're going to feel that uncomfortability of being seen in the world for who you are and what you are. And that's the purpose of the rising sign. Why do you feel that way? What is in the soul's storyline that suggests a necessity for trying to be more out, like creative and see and be recognized? You might shy away from that recognition because there's a trauma there. So the rising sign is bringing you the awareness of the potential trauma, if that were to be the case. I know a lot of people with rising sign Leos struggle to be seen and will hold their whole life going like, why is nobody seeing me? And you've really got to show up for yourself in that sense. Okay. So Simon, if someone has, this is Urania, you're saying, Simon, if somebody has, for example, a rising sign of Aquarius and then Uranus is in opposition on the descendant, since Uranus is the planet that is associated with Aquarius, how would that influence a person's expression of the ascendant? Would there be a battle of stepping into the ascendant, then feeling opposed from the outside or something else? Okay. I would say to you again, through multiple experiences of the ascendant, that if your rising sign is Aquarius and Uranus is sitting in your 7th, the question is, what types of relationships end and begin suddenly in your life that are revealing to you something else about yourself? So I would say, like in your case, if I were to do a deeper analysis, because it's a little bit more complex question, where is the sign? Obviously, you're going to have a Leo a Leo descendant. So I would look for this for the sun in the chart, and what aspects of yourself are in a sense being unrecognized, and how do you show up as somebody that's very Uranian that may like shock people into experiences of awakening. So again, your rising sign is Aquarius. What are you shocking people, Aquarius, Uranus in the 7th, into themselves? How do you show up as being deeply Uranian that says, hey, by the way, like this is how things work and I'm different, and people can see that. So you would be more likely to be somebody that would actually have the first impression of a Uranian dynamic because your Uranus is there. Okay. All right, Geraldine, you're saying an observation and a question. So I have a Capricorn Ascendant, and again, Saturn is not only retrograde, so it's got a Uranian quality to it, but it is intercepted. I would say that for me, this has played out into timing and patience as far as living the ascendant energy to becoming my own authority. Good job, right? Can you see this? Yeah, like Geraldine, you really understand this process because I've had a reading with you before. This is how the ascendant, you're looking at your retrograde Saturn, and that's teaching you. That's the point of this video. This is Geraldine suggesting, oh, well, I've observed in my life that this is what I'm here to learn, and this is what I'm seeing about this process. That's the point of this. Okay, becoming your own authority. Good job. Would you agree from your research that if a planetary ruler of the ascendant is retrograde or intercepted, it might take longer to truly become the energy of the ascendant? Yes, I would absolutely say that. And I'd back it up by two things. One, when a planet's retrograde, you're individuating it, so you don't know how to do it completely. And this is not a negative trait. It's just you're trying to break out of the rules of what the planet usually gets conditioned with. So if you have a Mercury retrograde, your mind's going to be operating differently to the collectives in this sense. So of course, you're going to find it difficult or take a longer period of time to get a sense of who you are, or accepting it at least. And I would say that because it's retrograde, it's intercepted, the likelihood of you knowing that energy in and of itself is going to be taking even longer, because transits will be the thing that will awaken your interception. Okay. So David Casey writes, the ascendant sign is the main filter for one's first house interactions with the environment. Exactly. One's first house interaction with the environment is unconscious and instinctive. Exactly. For example, one's body language in a conversation that one is not consciously aware of, that other people's 7th house polarity, exactly, are aware of. Exactly. So the descendant is the main filter for one's 7th house interactions with the environment. One's seventh house interaction with the environment is conscious and projective. Precisely, exactly. Need to give feedback. What impact does the ascendant have on the nature and the experience of the feedback that the first house needs in order to evolve? So David's also talking about the reflection process here, right? When we get feedback from the environment, we get an experience, and then when we reflect on that experience, we understand our ascendant. Do you see this process? So what impact does the ascendant sign have on the nature of the experience of the feedback? Well, it's about understanding what that ascendant means. So again, if your Aquarius rising is on the 7th, you've got an Aquarius rising and your Uranus is sitting in the 11th house Sag, like mine, and I have an experience where I feel a sense of not being seen within a group dynamic, my question through the environmental feedback is, are these people or is this group right for me? And in that sense, I get to answer that question. No, they're not. So this is not where I need to be going. This is not the group I'm trying to interact with. And so the reflection gives the ability to discern the direction. And again, first house interaction, I'm discerning my direction. Okay. And then finally, we've got Samantha over here, and she's asking or writing, "Hi Simon, if it's not too late, I have a Sagittarius ascendant with Jupiter in Cancer in the 9th house. Can you offer some insights?" Okay. So here's an example, peeps. There's a soul that has a Sagittarius rising. So firstly, their instinctual discovery about themselves is about what Sagittarius means to them. And then they have Jupiter, which is the planet of Sagittarius, in its own house. Do you see the synchronicity here? Their rising sign is here what they are to discover. Then they have Jupiter in this house that is the Sagittarius house, that is a Jupiter house. So obviously they're here to discover something about their personal truth. They're here to discover the thing that is their own vision. And how do they emotionally relate to that vision? Because it's in Cancer. Now, people through the descendant, i.e. she'll have a Gemini rising, you'll have a Gemini ascendant, Samantha. People will see you as somebody that's very chatty and like communicative and, like knowing. But really, you're actually asking the questions through the dialogue with the other people that is developing a sense of, I don't really believe that. Or, yeah, that's an interesting truth. Because you're not here to be Gemini on the ascendant, although that's how people perceive you. You're actually asking questions to develop the discovery of what your own personal truth is. Does that make sense? And this applies for everybody. You've got a Pisces rising and your Virgo's in the 7th. People are going to perceive you as organized and, like critical in that sense. But actually, you're trying to discern which type of people you want to be in a relationship with and with or not. Because inside of yourself, you're like, I don't know where my boundaries are. Oh, man, you just got to really, really love this stuff. Okay. So that's the video today. I really hope that you got a lot out of this content. If you would like to participate in further videos that is based on Patreon, in the description below is how you can join the Patreon page. If you would like me to help you synthesize your ascendant through a reading, the description below. And other than that, take care everybody. Bye-bye.